In this video, we're going to talk about how to prepare for an interview. I'm going to share with you 7 top secret interview prep strategies that you can utilize to be best prepared for the interview you have coming up. It doesn't matter whether it's a telephone interview, a video interview, or a face-to-face interview. I'm going to be sharing strategies that you can utilize to crush it in your upcoming interview. So if you want to learn how to ace your upcoming interview or how to interview well, you're in for a treat. Let's talk about it. Welcome to another episode of Career Strategies. My name is Rodney Hughes, Mr. 100%. And if this is your first time to this channel, I want to welcome you. And this channel is all about teaching you strategies that can help you aggressively advance your career. So if that's some subject matter that you're interested in learning more about, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. All right. So again, what we're talking about here is how to prepare for an interview. And I'm going to go over 7 top secret interview prep strategies that are going to help you crush it in your upcoming interview. Let's start with secret number 1. Secret number 1 is you have to have a solution-oriented mindset. Here's what I need you to understand. The number 1 guiding principle of all success in the job interview process is solving problems. See, here's the deal. The only reason why on God's green earth, why any company would ever hire someone is because they're looking to solve a series of problems. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about somebody that's coming in at the entry level or whether we're talking about a company trying to hire a CEO, right? Anytime that a company is looking to hire someone, it's because they have a series of problems that they are looking to solve. And so as a candidate, it is vitally important that you keep at the forefront of your mind at every single step of the interview process that's the only reason they're looking to hire somebody. All right. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because most people go into the interview process with the absolute wrong mentality. Most people go in with a me type of mentality. They're thinking, man, I want a great job. I hate my job currently. I want a new job. I hate my boss currently. I want a new job. I need to be making more money, right? I want more vacation time. Like, they're thinking all these thoughts. And listen, there's nothing wrong with you having those type of thoughts. But what you got to understand is that the company could care less about what you want as a candidate until, and that's the key word there, until they feel like you are the solution that they're looking for. Okay. If they feel that you as a candidate are the solution that they're looking for, then they'll start caring all about what it's going to take to make you feel happy so that they can bring you on board. All right. So I want you to do this. I want you to filter everything you do as you're kind of planning for this interview that's coming up. I want you to filter everything you do, everything you say through the lens of, I want to focus on positioning myself as the solution. Secret number 2, you got to be 100% sold on you. Okay. See, here's the thing. What you got to understand this. What the companies are actually looking for is they're looking for a sense of certainty. Okay. And it all starts with you. Okay. You have to be sold on the fact that you're the solution, that you're the best candidate for the job. Okay. Because if you're not sold on it prior to your interview, then as you're communicating with people in the interview process, it will come across that you're not convinced that you're the right solution for the role, and therefore they won't be convinced. See, what you got to understand is that as a company, most companies are at a huge disadvantage. Most companies only have 3 data points that they can rely on when it comes to making a hiring decision. Okay. The first data point is, what do you say about yourself? Right. So they look at your resume and they say, OK, all the experiences that you list out. But here's the reality. If I wanted to, I could put on my resume that I'm the president of the United States of America. OK, but the reality is that, I could say that, but I've never been the president of the United States. Right. So the thing is that people can say whatever they want to say, but that's still a data point that they use when it comes to them thinking about ways to make a decision on who to hire. But the second data point is, what do you do? Right. So as a candidate, How well do you actually interview when they're interviewing you on the telephone interview, on the video interview, or on the in the face-to-face interview? Okay. And then the third data point that they have to rely on is, what do other people say about you? Okay. So they're looking at reference checks, they're looking at background checks and all these different things, right? But ultimately, okay, what you got to understand is those are the only 3 data points that they can rely on in order to make a decision, right? And so because of that, companies tend to be in a posture of looking for a reason to kick a candidate out of consideration, right? And so for that reason, you can't afford not to be sold on yourself as a candidate prior to going into the actual interview process. Okay, you gotta be sold. You gotta be convinced. You need to be confident, not cocky. Okay, now I'm not telling you to be cocky, but you gotta be sold on the fact that you have value to offer to this role. You are the best person for this role. Because if you're sold on it, the way that you'll interact in the process will make them become sold, will make them have a sense of certainty about you as a candidate. Okay. Secret number 3, you have to prepare for worst case scenario. I like to use the example of Navy SEALs. So Navy SEALs are one of the most elite military units in the military. Okay. And some would even argue the most elite. Okay. But that's up for, that's a subjective thing. Okay. But nonetheless, nobody would argue that Navy SEALs are one of the most elite units in the entire armed forces. Okay. And here's what I want you to understand. Navy SEALs are not born, okay? Navy SEALs are trained and created, okay? And why am I telling you this? Because here's the thing. In order to make a Navy SEAL, you have to put them through immense training in high pressure situations, okay? There's a process called BUDS. It's a training process that creates, right? It creates Navy SEALs, okay? And so what does this have to do with you as a candidate preparing for an interview? See, here's the thing. A lot of candidates mess up because they go into the interview process with a best case scenario type mindset. Okay. They're expecting everything to go right. Okay. On the contrary, I like to tell people you're better off expecting everything to go wrong. Okay. And planning in advance what you would do if some of those things go wrong, right? So I want you to think about worst case scenario, because here's the truth. If the best case scenario happens, guess what? You don't have to be you don't have to be prepared anyway, right? If the best case scenario happens, then you're lucky. Good job. Congratulations, right? But if the worst case scenario happens, right? That's where your preparation is going to kick in. That's where your skill is going to kick in. That's where your training is going to kick in. See, what makes a Navy SEAL is that they are trained to handle the worst case scenario. They are trained to survive in the worst case scenario. They are trained to advance and excel in the worst case scenario, right? So I want you to kind of embrace a Navy SEAL type mentality when it comes to preparing for your upcoming interview. That way, if the worst case scenario happens, you can be best prepared for it. Secret number 4, you must perform strategic research. Okay. Listen, it is 1000% unacceptable for a candidate not to know what a company does going into a telephone interview, a video interview, or a face-to-face interview. And it amazes me how many candidates will go into an interview situation and they don't even really know what the company does. It baffles me. It is like, it just flies completely over my head. I don't understand how people can do it, but people do it every day. Okay. And you cannot afford to be one of those people. Okay. I actually want to tell you a quick story. So, a long time ago, okay, I ended up going through the interview process with the #1 facilitation company in the world. And the CEO of that company ended up conducting a telephone interview with me. And at a certain point in the telephone interview, because of my strategic research that I had done, I had found some information that this person was voted the 2008 Facilitator of the Year, right? So I, stored that information after I did my strategic research, and there came a point in my telephone interview where I was able to leverage that information to show that I'm well versed on what the company has to offer and why I'm interested in the company, right? And that was one of the things that I brought up. Now, when I brought that piece of information up, okay, the CEO, he kind of laughed, and he was like, okay, you just got some brownie points. That's impressive. I'll give it to you. That's impressive, right? And it provided more credibility for me as a candidate, because I wasn't just walking in looking for a job. I was showing signals that I am truly interested in this opportunity. And the only way you can do that is you got to have the right information. When they ask you, do you know what we do as an organization? You can't say you don't know what they do. Okay. And then what's even worse than saying you don't know, right, is, making up something. Okay. That's never going to serve you well in the interview process. So what you need to do in your preparation is you need to do some strategic research on the company. Go to the company website, look up people's LinkedIn backgrounds, and know the people that you're dealing with and the information that you're going to be focusing on in that job. Okay. Secret number 5. I want you to dress for maximum effectiveness. Okay. Here's the thing. Regardless if you're on a telephone interview, a video interview, or a face-to-face interview, I want you to dress to impress. Now, I know some of you might be thinking right now, why in the world do I need to dress up in order to do a telephone interview? One of the things I just believe in, it's kind of like Deion Sanders said one time, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good, right? And so what I want you to do, it's something about when you dress up, you feel better about yourself. You feel more confident about yourself, and you actually end up carrying yourself differently, right? And so when you're going into a telephone interview, a video interview, or a face-to-face interview, you got to understand that this is a very important time, right? There are thousands of dollars that are at play here, right? If you're selected as the candidate of choice, right? So respect the process, right? You want to do everything you can to improve your odds of coming across the right way, right? So that's why, listen, I take my own advice, right? Every time I get into an interview mode, I don't care if it's a telephone interview, a video interview, or a face-to-face interview, I get dressed up, okay, on the day that I'm about to be doing that stuff, okay? Because I want to put my best foot forward, and I want to be best prepared to present myself as a highly credible, enthusiastic individual, okay? Secret number 6. How to answer difficult interview questions, right? You got to prepare for difficult interview questions. Now, difficult interview questions actually kind of vary from person to person, but there's one main thing that I try to teach people when it comes to answering questions. Okay. There's a concept I call triple C's. Okay. You want to keep everything that comes out of your mouth clear, concise, and compelling. Okay. It needs to be clear. People need to understand what you're talking about. You don't want people getting confused because you're not being clear with what you're talking or what you're articulating. Okay. It needs to be concise, right? If it takes only 4 words, don't take 100 words to articulate what you could get done in 4 words. Okay. And then it needs to be compelling. It needs to be something, when I say it's compelling, it needs to be something that's positive. Okay. It needs to be something that's interesting, right? Like that's what your goal should be. It should be to say things that are interesting. And remember, the only reason they're looking to hire someone is to solve problems, right? So any information that you could share with somebody about how you have solved problems in your career, based on the question that they're asking you, guess what? That's compelling. Why? Because they're looking for people that know how to solve problems. You get it? Okay, so here's what I want you to understand. Keep it clear, concise, and compelling, the triple C's. And the other thing that's another real big pet peeve for most hiring decision makers is if they ask you a direct question, you need to be prepared to give a direct answer first and then provide context. Like one of the ways I see people mess up and they don't realize that they're actually positioning themselves as a poor communicator is that most people structure it the wrong way. They structure their response to a question the wrong way. The way they'll do it that's wrong is they'll provide context first and then give a direct answer. That's the wrong way to structure that. The right way to structure it is you want to give a direct answer, and then you want to be able to provide context on the back end, right? So if somebody were to ask you, okay, Rodney, so tell me about your weaknesses, then I would, if I'm going to do it the right way, right, I'm going to give the direct answer, right? Which is, well, thank you for asking. My biggest weakness is probably going to be impatience. Okay, boom. That's the direct answer. And then I might follow up and say, let me explain. Over the years, one of the things that I've noticed is that from time to time, I can tend to be pretty impatient. Okay, so I'm giving some context, right? And now you're able to kind of understand why I said what I said, right? But I first started off by giving the direct answer first and then providing the context afterwards. Okay. And which brings me to my next point, right? You got to be prepared to utilize the power of spin control. Okay. Now, you might not know what spin control is, so let me explain this. Listen, when you're being asked questions in the interview process, if they ever peg you in a corner and force you to say something negative about yourself, I want you to utilize the power of spin control at the end of whatever you're saying. Okay, so let me use that last example that I just gave, which is, okay, so tell me about a weakness that you have, right? Just by that question, you're forcing me to say something negative about myself, right? So I would say what I said. Hey, my biggest weakness is probably I'm impatient from time to time. And then I give some context, blah, 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 right? But then here goes the power of spin control, right? I'm going to always spin it back positive at the end. And when in doubt, if you don't know how to spin it back positive, you can always say a learning lesson, right? Because that shows a high degree of personal responsibility, right? So I might, in that scenario, I might say, but you know what, man, I thank God that I know that my biggest weakness is impatience, because what I've done is I've gone to different seminars and I've really focused on being cognizant now of when I'm getting impatient. And now I'm able to step back, take a quick breath, right? And I'm able to analyze my situation and then prioritize the things that I need to get done so that things can move forward. So I've learned how to overcome this big weakness. Okay. See, if you do that, right, then you always end off on a positive note. Okay. You don't ever want to end off on a negative note, because if you just flat out end on a negative note, then like for instance, with that question, if I just end off by saying, giving you the direct answer that my biggest weakness is impatience, and then giving you context, if I just end there, then what ends up happening sometimes is that some people might interpret that as, okay, he knows what his biggest weakness is, but maybe he doesn't care that that's his biggest weakness. You see what I'm saying? So you don't ever want to do that. But listen, these are the 7 secrets. If you do these 7 secrets, I promise you, okay, you'll be well prepared. If you prepare for these things, you will be well prepared going into your interview, and you will probably do really, really well. Okay. Now, if you would like to learn a step-by-step approach, right? If you want me to walk you from point A all the way to point Z and show you very specific things you can do to exponentially improve your odds of interviewing well, of preparing well and interviewing well, then I want to give you free access to this course right here, Interview Prep University. And Interview Prep University is designed to teach you how to exponentially improve your job interview skills from point A all the way to point Z. And so if you'd like to get free access to this, you got 1 of 3 ways you can do it. Way number 1, you can go to www.interviewprepuniversity.com. Way number 2, you can click the button beneath this video, or way number 3, you can go in the description area beneath my YouTube video and you'll see a link there to that website. Okay. But I promise you, this will be one of the most valuable resources that you've ever taken advantage of in your life. And here's the best thing. It's 100% free. All right. Listen, I hope you got great value out of this video. If you did, do me a favor, like this video, comment on this video, tell me what you like the most. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.